Hello, everybody. My name is Ariadne Rainbird, and this talk today is going to be on Hekate in the living Orphic tradition. This is a talk that I have given live a couple of times in the past, and I thought now I would share it on YouTube. So, first, a little bit about me, a little about my background, and how I discovered this path, and what I mean by the living Orphic tradition. As a small child, my bedtime reading was the Greek myths. I was always fascinated by the tales of the gods and the heroes, and how the natural world was inhabited by nymphs and daemons, and by how closely entwined the realms of gods and mortals were. And also the wisdom and lessons about life, the importance of virtue and the heroic quest, of piety and honour, the dangers of hubris or excessive pride, and other moral lessons that the myths contained. My love of the Greek gods was further inspired through school and college days, through their appearance in English literature, from Chaucer to Shakespeare and the English poets. When I went on to university, I was introduced to Plato for the first time, as well as classical Greek plays. I also, at that time, became involved first in Buddhism and yoga, and then in the Fellowship of Isis, and I began exploring various pagan traditions. Upon moving to Wales, I was initiated into a Wiccan coven, with Wicca being my main path for several years. And living in Wales, also learned about the Welsh Celtic tradition. I also studied heathenry for a year or so because I have Germanic ancestry, and I thought I should. But the Greek gods continued to call to me, and I wanted to honour them, not just as part of an eclectic Wiccan or neo-pagan tradition, but to explore more traditional Greek ways. So I began to search online. I initially became involved in some online Hellenic pagan communities. I had some good, some bad, some ugly, and some totally crazy experiences with those. But eventually, in my search, I discovered one version of a living Orphic tradition, which I've been following for the past 12 years or so, possibly a little bit longer. So, why Greek religion? What attracts me to it, and why do I feel it's important? Well, I think classical culture is inherent in Western culture, in our architecture, in our art, in our philosophy, in our poetry, in a lot of the works of the English poets and the plays of Shakespeare, etc. Mythology is familiar. The Greek and Roman mythology tends to be familiar to us. Most people know who Venus or Aphrodite is, and they're a lot more familiar than the Celtic deities are to most people, or even the Norse deities, except now that they've been popularized by Marvel World. The Greek and the Roman gods and goddesses are widely known. They're also in popular culture in films such as Percy Jackson, etc., and Clash of the Titans. Greek deities need to be understood, however, within the culture that they come from, as their relationships with other deities in the pantheon do make a holistic system. And so I wanted to explore the actual Greek tradition. We're lucky that much has survived in terms of written and material evidence of ancient Greek paganism, which gives those who wish to practice a reconstructionist Greek religion a wealth of information from which to piece together the ancient religions. Although much has also been lost, far too much has also survived for the religion to ever have been destroyed completely. What's more, the philosophies continue to develop in the works of the Platonic philosophers over the following centuries up to the present day. And there are still families in Greece who have practiced at least some aspects of the ancient Greek pagan traditions, passed down and practiced through generations, that have developed organically and naturally through the centuries though firmly rooted in the myths, philosophies, and spiritual practices of the ancient Greek mystery traditions. Each family has its own traditions, and each is different. Some just slightly different, some greatly different from each other. I've learned something of one of the family traditions from Greeks who are willing to share their tradition. This is very different to Hellenic Reconstructionism, which attempts to recreate mainstream rituals of ancient and classical Greece. But it's a tradition which includes ideas and practices which have developed through the philosophical schools throughout the centuries, but based in the mystical traditions known as Orphic. The Orphic philosophical tradition is often very different to mainstream practices and beliefs, and the theoi, the gods, in particular, may be interpreted very differently. Most pagans and goddess worshippers are aware of Hekate's role as mistress of magic and goddess of witchcraft, but in the Orphic tradition, Hekate's role is a bit different. She is a goddess who embodies virtue and the mystic path. She is a savioress, sotira, and a mediator. She is considered to be the advocate of the virtuous. She is also seen as the world's soul, as described in the Chaldean oracles and by the later Platonic philosophers. So first, a bit about Orphism as understood in the living tradition. Orphismos, or Orphism, is a mystery tradition or group of traditions within Hellenismos, or Hellenism, closely connected with the Bacchic mysteries, the mysteries of Dionysos, and is often known as the Bacchic Orphic mysteries. It can be seen as the religion of Dionysos, who in Orphismos is Soter, the saviour. It is also closely connected with the Eleusinian mysteries, with Persephone also having an important role as Sotira, saviouress. The gold tablets, often referred to as the Bacchic Orphic tablets, which have been discovered in burials of Bacchic Orphic initiates throughout ancient Greece and Rome, dating from the 5th century to the 3rd century, 5th century BCE to the 3rd century CE, contain funerary inscriptions giving instructions for the afterlife, in which Persephone and Dionysos are petitioned, or where the initiate is instructed to tell Persephone that they have been liberated by Dionysos himself. For example, a late 4th century BCE tablet from a woman's grave in Pellina, Thessaly, says, "Now you have died, and now you have come into being, O thrice happy one, on this same day. Tell Persephone that the Bacchic one himself has released you. As a bull you jumped into the milk. Quickly you jumped into the milk. You have wine as your favourite honour, as your fortunate honour. And below the earth there are ready for you the same prizes as for the blessed ones." And from another 4th century BCE grave of a woman, "I come from the pure, queen of the Chthonian ones, Evcles and Evulios, and the gods and other daemons. For I also claim to be of your happy race. I have paid for the penalty of unrighteous deeds. Either Moira overcame me, or the star-flinger of lightnings. Now I come as a suppliant to holy Persephone, so that she may kindly send me to the seats of the pure." Eucles or Evcles, good fame, and Evulios, good counsel, are epithets of Dionysos. Eupholios is associated with the Eleusinian mysteries as a torchbearer, leading initiates back from the darkness of the underworld. And another rather interesting but fragmentary and interspersed with untranslatable letters, possibly magical formulas, piece from Italy, full of specifically Orphic references. To Protogonos, Earth Mother Cybele, daughter of Demeter, Zeus, air, sun, fire that overcomes, fortune, Phanes, all remembering Moirai, father, master of all correspondence, air, fire, mother, night, day, seventh day of a fast, Zeus who digs in, and watcher over all, always, mother, hear my prayers, beautiful, sacred things, Demeter, fire, Zeus, chthonic Kore, hero, light to the mind, the mindful one seizes Kore, land, air, to the mind. And from the same area, from a small tumulus, is this one. I come from the pure, queen of the Chthonian ones, Evcles, Evolios, and the other immortal gods. For I also claim to be of your happy race. But Moira overcame me, and the other immortal gods, and the star-flinger with lightning. I have flown out of the heavy, difficult circle. I have approached the longed-for crown with swift feet. I have sunk beneath the breast of the lady, the Chthonian queen. I have approached the longed-for crown with swift feet, happy and blessed. You will be a god instead of a mortal. As a kid, I fell into the milk. Being a kid leaping into the milk is a common feature of the Orphic tablets, and its mystical interpretation, at least in the tradition as I've learned it, is that the milk is the breast milk of Hera, queen of the gods, which is the Milky Way, and that the liberated soul is leaping out into the cosmos as a kid or a bull, which are animals associated with Dionysos, having flown out of the heavy, difficult circle of rebirth, being nourished by the wine ether of Dionysus, the Dionysos, and deified, going forth as a god instead of a mortal, having achieved liberation and deification of the soul, which is the desired culmination of the Orphic path. So, what has all this got to do with Hekate, you may ask? She's not mentioned in any of these Orphic tablets. So how, in Orphism, is Hekate Sotira, Saviouress? Why do we need her when we have Persephone and Dionysos as Sotira and Soter? Well, Hekate obviously does have an important place in Orphismos, and it is significant that her hymn appears at the beginning of the Orphic hymns, immediately after the instruction to Mosaios. In the Orphic hymn to Hekate, she is described as holding the keys to the whole cosmos and being venerated in earth, sea, and sky, as well as in the realm of the dead. She is therefore a goddess who can traverse the realms, a psychopomp, walker between the worlds, and guide of souls, much like Hermes. Hekate is also found in the Orphic Argonautica. Orpheus invokes her in order to gain entry into the grove which harbours the Chrysomalandires, the golden fleece. In Orphic interpretation, the golden fleece symbolises the deified soul, and therefore Hekate is opening the gateway to the deification of the soul. Hekate also had an important role in the Eleusinian mysteries, and was one of the chief goddesses honoured in them, alongside Demeter and Persephone. In the story of the abduction of Persephone and Demeter's search for her daughter, Hekate was the one goddess who aided Demeter, as she had heard the cries of Persephone as she was abducted by Pluton. And Hekate helped Demeter in the search for her daughter, bearing torches to guide her. Hekate also became the chief handmaiden of Persephone in Hades. As assistant to the Demeter and handmaid to Persephone, this subsidiary role might seem like a bit of a demotion to those who worship Hekate as the great goddess, queen of the earth, sea and sky, holder of the keys to the cosmos, etc. But in fact, in Orphismos, Hekate's role as mediator is extremely important. and we need to understand what is meant by her role as mediator and advocate of the virtuous. As the goddess who is the mediator between, in Neoplatonic terms, the intelligible and sensible realms, that is, between the realm of divine forms and that of the physical world, who facilitates passage from one realm to the other, it is Hekate who facilitates Persephone's journey. Homer tells us in the Homeric hymn to Demeter that Queen Hekate was the preceder and the follower of Persephone, which conjures an image of Hekate as surrounding and protecting Persephone. Hekate is present at Persephone's descent and at her return, and as her guide, companion, and handmaiden, escorts Persephone on a very difficult and significant journey, and continues to escort her across the boundary and ease her transition in her annual descent and ascent. As mistress of souls, Hekate also escorts the dead back and forth across the same boundary. It might be helpful at this stage to say a little bit about the basic principles of the living Orphic tradition as I have learned it, in order to give a context for understanding the importance of Hekate's role as mediator and advocate of the virtuous. I've already mentioned the importance of Dionysos, Soter, the saviour, and Persephone, Sotira, the saviouress in the tradition. Orphic myth says, at least in the version most commonly cited in this tradition, that Zeus seduced Persephone in the form of a serpent, and she subsequently gave birth to Zagreus, which is the first birth of Dionysos, also known in Orphismos as Zeus's first influence on the soul. Zeus intended for Dionysos Zagreus to be his successor as king of the gods. Zeus gave the infant Zagreus his staff, thunderbolts, and throne. However, at the instruction of Hera, the wife of Zeus, the Titans distracted the infant Zagreus with a number of toys, each of which has mystical significance. A pine cone and a spinning top, and limb-moving rattles, and golden apples from the clear-toned Hesperides, where apples grew which bestowed mortality, dice, a sphere, a top, tufts of fleece, and a mirror. Zagreus was delighted with the toys, and abandoned his thunderbolts, and whilst he contemplated his changeling countenance reflected in the mirror, mesmerised, beholding of himself, he proceeded into the whole fabrication of the universe, looking out into infinity in his own reflection. The Titans took that opportunity, whilst he was distracted, to seize him, and destroyed him with infernal knives. 7 parts of the child in all did they divide between them. The toys of Dionysos all have mystical or magical significance, and the spinning top particularly is associated with Hekate, and is also known as the Iynx wheel, which is used to mediate between the realms, and is associated with Ienges or daemons, which mediate between the divine and mortal realms, and which are under the dominion of Hekate. When Zeus got to hear of the Titans having killed Zagreus, he destroyed the Titans with thunderbolts, but the heart of Zagreus was saved and placed in a silver casket and taken by Athena to a place of safety. Zeus then created the races of mortals from the ashes of the Titans and the burned remains of the limbs of Zagreus. Thus, the mortal races are created from the base substance of the Titans, which binds them to the cycle of death and rebirth, and the divinity of Dionysos Zagreus, through whom liberation may be achieved. Zeus then made a potion from the heart of Zagreus, which he gave to Semele, the semi-divine daughter of the goddess Harmonia, and the mortal king Cadmus, to drink. Semele then became pregnant with the infant Dionysos, and the birth of Dionysos on earth through Semele is known as Zeus's second influence on the soul. Dionysos is sent as a saviour and liberator to aid us to escape from the cycles of rebirth and to achieve gnosis of our divinity and reunion with the divine. Persephone has an important role, both as the first mother of Dionysos and as the compassionate receiver of souls who births us into the next life. Her role in the myth of continually descending and ascending represents a soul incarnating back into matter and being liberated and reunited with the divine. Along with Dionysos, who may be seen as a central figure of Orphismos, the 12 Olympians are also honoured, each one having an important role in guiding the human soul on the path to liberation, and each also connected with a sign of the zodiac, the wheel around the central hub that Dionysos represents. The Orphic path itself could be said to have 4 pillars. The first is akoi, things heard, which relates to the traditions, stories of the gods, the myths, rituals, practices, and philosophies. The second is theurgy, which is divine work, and the tradition is seen as communion with deity through ritual and meditative practices. The third is philosophia, which is the love of and striving for wisdom, and refers to intellectual work which endeavours to discover genuine truth and wisdom, and to challenge our own ideas, the raw philosophy of Socrates, rather than self-justifying philosophical theories or rhetoric. So, on the one hand, there is the tradition, what we are taught, and on the other, there is the questioning of our beliefs and the scrutiny of everything with the rational eye of philosophy. The fourth pillar is perhaps the most important, and that is arete, which may be translated as virtue or excellence. Now, this is not the pursuit of glory as some understand the word, due to the way it is used in ancient texts such as Homer's Iliad, but is the source from which all virtues are generated. Plato said that arete is a kind of harmony of the soul, a type of constant between one's emotions and one's reason. Plato also described 4 principal manifestations of arete: courage or fortitude, temperance or moderation, wisdom, and justice. These are the 4 cardinal virtues of classical antiquity. The development of arete involves understanding one's place in the cosmos and living in accordance with the natural laws, whilst seeking to develop one's consciousness and to be the best that one can be, to develop into being the best version of oneself that one can be. In the living Orphic tradition, the striving for and achievement of arete is the most pleasing gift we can offer to the gods. The gods desire us to achieve arete and endeavour to help us to achieve it if we put the effort in. Hekate, she who has the far-shooting power, is the mighty goddess within Orphismos, who is our greatest advocate in the pursuit of arete, genuine virtue. Hekate first appears in Greek literature in Hesiod in Works and Days, which tells us, and Asterea conceived by Perses and bare Hekate, whom Zeus the son of Cronos honoured above all. He gave her splendid gifts, to have a share of the earth and the unfruitful sea. She received honour also in starry heaven, and is honoured exceedingly by the deathless gods. For to this day, whenever any one of men on earth offers rich sacrifice and prays for favour according to custom, he calls upon Hekate. Great honour comes full easily to him, whose prayers the goddess receives favourably, and she bestows wealth upon him. For the power surely is with her. For as many as were born of Gaia and Uranus amongst all these, she has her due portion. The son of Cronos did her no wrong, nor took anything away of all that was her portion among the former Titan gods. But she holds, as the division was at the first from the beginning, privilege both in earth and in heaven and in sea. Also, because she is an only child, the goddess receives not less honour, but much more still. For Zeus honours her. Whom she will, she greatly aids and advances. She sits by worshipful kings in judgment, and in the assembly, whom she will is distinguished among the people. And when men arm themselves for the battle that destroys men, then the goddess is at hand to give victory and grant glory readily to whom she will. Good is she also when men contend at the games, for there too the goddess is with them and profits them. And he who by might and strength gets the victory wins the rich prize easily with joy, and brings glory to his parents. And she is good to stand by horsemen, whom she will, and to those whose business is in the grey discomfortable sea, and who pray to Hekate and the loud crashing earth shaker. Easily the glorious goddess gives great catch, and easily she takes it away as soon as seen, if so she will. She is good in the byre with Hermes to increase the stock, the droves of kine and wide herds of goats and flocks of fleecy sheep, if she will. She increases from a few or makes many to be less. So then, albeit her mother's only child, she is honoured amongst all the deathless gods. And the son of Cronos made her a nurse of the young, who after that day saw with their eyes the light of all-seeing dawn. So from the beginning she is a nurse of the young, and these are her honours. This passage in Hesiod has sometimes been considered to be an Orphic intrusion into Works and Days, as it seems to appear out of nowhere, and does not follow the context of the rest of the work. Hekate was thought in Hesiod's time to be a minor deity, yet Hesiod suddenly goes into quite a lengthy hymn of praise and exaltation to Hekate, which appears to mark her out as a very important deity. Yet, following this passage, Hekate plays no further role in Hesiod's theogony. This hymn to Hekate appears just before the account of the birth of Zeus and the other Olympians. Hekate is the last born of the older gods, with the exception of the sons of Iapetus. The theogony concludes with the triumph of Zeus and the Olympian order, and the story of Prometheus and the creation of man and woman. The Olympians rule supreme, with Zeus at their head. Yet we are told in the passage about Hekate that Zeus honoured Hekate above all and gave her splendid gifts, to have a share of earth and the sterile sea. And she also received a share of honour from the starry sky. Here, the Greek is quite precise in saying that Hekate is not given earth, sea and sky, but that she is given, or rather retains, a share of honour on earth, heavens and sea. The notion of a portion or share is repeated throughout the hymn. During the battle with the Titans, Zeus promised all who aided him on his side that they would be allowed to keep the honour they held previously, and whoever had been without honour or privilege under Cronos would receive both. Hekate does not appear to have a role in the Titanomachy or to render any special services to Zeus, yet She not only keeps her honours, but receives new ones. The text stresses that it is Zeus who honours her, not the other way round, as if Zeus himself sees the importance of keeping in Hecate's favour and maintaining her functions in his new regime. Hekate is called monogenes, meaning only daughter, indicating her unique position over the three cosmic realms. Hecate's powers over the lives of men are also listed, and it is clear that Hecate's goodwill will assure the success of every human endeavour. But it is also clear that this is given in conjunction with other deities, as can be seen from this passage. To those whose business is in the grey discomfortable sea, and who pray to Hekate and the loud crashing earth shaker, easily the glorious goddess gives great catch, and easily she takes it away as soon as seen, if so she will. So that is referring to the loud crashing earth shaker, to Poseidon, the god of the sea. That when Hekate is prayed to and offered to in conjunction with Poseidon, then the fisherman will get a great catch. She is good in the byre with Hermes to increase the stock, the droves of kine and wide herds of goats and flocks of fleecy sheep, if she will. She increases from a few or makes many to be less. So in this passage, prayers to Hekate work in conjunction with prayers to other gods, to Poseidon in the first instance and to Hermes in the second instance. Similarly, she grants preeminence in war and brings victory and glory, yet this is the realm of the goddess Nike, who dwells with Zeus and with Athena. Hekate therefore has extensive, but not fully independent powers. She has an influence in each realm, but manifests her powers in areas which belong to other gods, or to a diversity of gods. But in each sphere, it is the goodwill of Hekate that ensures success. If Hecate's goodwill is absent, the implication is that prayers and offerings will be useless and failure will follow. In the living Orphic tradition, Hekate is called the advocate of the virtuous, because it is by cultivating arete, or virtue, that one can win the favour of the goddess who has the power over success or failure in all realms. So Hekate is the mighty advocate of the virtuous, who holds our hands while we pray, allowing the agathosdaimon, represented by her dogs, to take our prayers to the gods. The agathosdaimons can take our supplications to be heard by the Olympian gods. Hekate will always listen to those who strive for virtue. And her dogs will take our prayers to the Olympians, advocating on our behalf. When a person decides to commit to a life of virtue, the gods take notice, as though their eyes are wide open. And they move close to us and give help, for they know that this is a difficult road, and they find such an endeavour beautiful. Hekate is particularly interested in the souls of those who embark on this pursuit. She assists the suppliant and works alongside goddess Athena, who, according to the Orphic rhapsodic theogony, is virtue itself. Hekate is often considered to be a dark goddess in modern times, and is often connected with witchcraft and magic. Hekate is called Nycteria, an epithet meaning of the night. This is because, like the goddess Nyx, Hekate operates in areas that are generally unknown to mortals and inaccessible to the rational mind. Hence they're hidden from us, as though concealed by night. But Hekate is the daughter of Asteria, the starry one, and Perseus, who is also connected with the stars and fire. Therefore, even though her parents are connected with the night, they are of the stars, celestial bodies which give light, but which can only be perceived in darkness. One of Hecate's epithets is phosphorus, an epithet meaning bringing light. Hekate has hidden means to give help, but particularly when we cannot see our way through difficult problems, Hekate lights the way for us with her torch, shedding light on our path and solutions. Hekate is the queen of Magia, or magic. She is the great goddess of Magia. She has intimate knowledge of and control of the natural world, and is capable of using this power to great ability in order to assist worthy mortals. This Magia or magic does not defy natural laws, but is, by its very nature, only available to evolved beings who are in harmony with the natural laws, such that they reflect its power and can employ it. Souls such as the genuine Hierophantos or Hierophants of the Eleusinian mysteries and the gods. Such Magia is exercised for the benefit of the virtuous when in need. Hekate is also associated with the middle sky, the area which extends from just above the sea and the land up to just below the moon. This is the place where the souls dwell, the souls of those whose mortal bodies have died and are awaiting rebirth. As such, she is dwelling with the dead. Although Hekate has a portion of earth, sea, and sky, she likes to dwell in this middle region and assist the mortals and deities who reside there. The idea that the souls of the dead inhabit the middle sky can be found in various texts, such as Plutarch, who says, "All soul, whether without mind or with it, when it has issued from the body, is destined to wander in the region between earth and moon." This idea can also be found in Pythagorean writings. So from the Lives and Opinions of the Eminent Philosophers is this passage. When cast out upon the earth, the soul wanders in the air like the body. Hermes is the steward of souls, and for that reason is called Hermes the Escorter, Hermes the Keeper of the Gate, and Hermes of the underworld, since it is he who brings in the souls from their bodies, both by land and sea, and the pure are taken into the uppermost region, but the impure are not permitted to approach the pure or each other, but are bound by the Furies in bonds unbreakable. The whole air is full of souls, which are called genii or heroes. These are they who send men dreams and signs of future disease and health, and not to men alone, but to sheep also and cattle as well. And it is to them that purifications and lustrations, all divination, omens, and the like have reference. The most momentous thing in human life is the art of winning the soul to good or to evil. Blessed are the men who acquire a good soul. If it be bad, they can never be at rest, nor ever keep the same course 2 days together. Now, in the Chaldean oracles, written in later antiquity, Hecate's role as intermediary becomes linked with the world's soul. In Plato's Philebus, Plato has Socrates say that the souls of individual bodies are derived from that one which ensouls the body of the cosmos. This soul is similar to, but fairer than the souls of men. The idea of the world soul is expanded upon in Plato's Timaeus. In the Chaldean oracles, which appeared during the time of the Middle Platonic philosophers and attempted to unite philosophy, religion, and theurgy, Hekate has renewed prominence, being linked to the world soul in Plato's Timaeus, whose form has a celestial chi, written like a cross, like an X, the Greek letter chi. In the Timaeus, Plato describes two cosmic principles which are conjoined in the form of two intersecting circles, which looked at face on make the form of the chi, the crossroads of Hekate. These he described as the same and the different. The same and the different are unified within soul. Later Platonic philosophers understood these principles as the intelligent, or the intelligible rather, and sensible realms, the realm of unchanging divinity and that of changing mortality. Plato says that the motion of the different is the course of the planets, whilst leaving the explanation of the motion of the same somewhat vague. Later writers, from Cicero to Manilius to Macrobius and beyond, who influenced the development of Platonic cosmology, link these circles to the circle of the zodiac, the path of the planets, and the circle of the Milky Way, which cross in the sky. At the intersection of these two celestial circles are the heavenly gates. Hekate is the holder of the keys. She who has the keys to unlock and lock the heavenly gates, and also the gates of Hades. The crossroads of Hekate can be seen as the celestial key of the gates of heaven. And it's kind of interesting too that the Greek letter key also sounds like the word keys that unlock doors. Hekate is present wherever souls cross boundaries between life and death, and where the soul experiences the death and rebirth of the mysteries. Depictions of the Eleusinian mysteries in ancient art also show a torch in the form of a key or a cross, and Hekate carries two torches representing the two cosmic principles. In the Chaldean oracles, and to the Middle Platonists, the cosmic soul was a multifaceted intermediary between two worlds. The forms or ideas of the intelligible realm were received by the cosmic soul, who in turn cast them onto primal matter, which then became the physical universe. It is through the cosmic soul that the cosmos is structured into its proper proportions and order. The cosmic soul is also the generator of individual souls. In the Philebus, Plato's Socrates argues that if our bodies are derived from the greater body of the cosmos, then logically our souls must be derived from the cosmic soul. Soul also encloses the sensible or physical world and is receiver and transmitter of ideas or forms, giving proportion and harmony and ensouling individual living beings. As the cosmic soul, Hekate became the intermediary between the sensible and intelligible realms, and it is at her discretion that passage from one realm to another can occur. This intermediary role is an extension of her older role as goddess of physical crossroads, doors, and liminal places. Hecate's connection with the moon in later antiquity is linked to her role as intermediary, as the moon is both a liminal point and a mediating entity, receiving the light of the sun and reflecting the light of the earth. Plutarch said that the moon conducts down the warmth of the sun and conducts upwards the exaltations of the earth, refining them in the process. Thus, the moon not only brings down the powers of the heavens and the intelligible realm, but can help to lift us to the divine realm. Xenocrates describes the moon as the intermediate layer in a three-tiered universe. Xenocrates also placed the classes of daemons in the realm of the moon. The daemons also being intermediate between gods and men. Hekate traditionally is the queen of intermediary spirits, of phantoms and daemons. In the living Orphic tradition, The intermediary daemons are represented by her dogs, which are the agathas daemons, or good spirits, which guide us and help us on our path, carry our prayers to the gods, and can aid us in spiritual work. The daemons in Orphic and Platonic philosophy and mysticism also function to escort souls between realms. As a goddess of boundaries and liminal places, as psychopomp, guide, and intermediary, Hekate was also associated with a number of other deities, such as Hermes, who she is often invoked in conjunction with, and also with Artemis, as the goddess who aids in the transition of birth in the physical realm, and with Rhea, the great mother who births the physical world. The ideas of the intelligible realm are given structure and harmony in the womb of Hekate, or Rhea, and then birthed into the physical universe. She was also associated with the Roman god Janus, another god of boundaries, as can be seen from Proclus's hymn to Hekate, Janus, and Zevs. In this hymn, the first to be invoked is the mother of the gods, generally considered to be Rhea. Proclus says of Rhea that the cause of generation has proceeded from her principle, having received the rank of mother among all the paternal orders, and introducing the demiurge before all the other gods, the universal demiurge and the inflexible safekeeper. He goes on to say, concerning Rhea, the generative source, from whom all divine life, intellectual, spiritual, and mundane is generated, the oracles speak as follows. Truly, Rhea is the source and stream of blessed and intellectual realities. Because she, the first in power, receives the birth of all beings in her inexpressible womb, and pours forth this birth on the all as it runs its course. So, in Proclus's hymn, Rhea, Hekate, and Janus, or Zevs, are mentioned together. First the mother, then the median principle of the world soul, and then the father and demiurge. So I'll now read Proclus's hymn to Hekate, Janus, and Zevs. Hail, many-named mother of the gods, whose children are fair. Hail, mighty Hekate of the threshold. And hail to you also, forefather Janus, imperishable Zevs. Hail to you, Zevs most high. Shape the course of my life with luminous light, and make it laden with good things. Drive sickness and evil from my limbs. And when my soul rages about worldly things, deliver me purified by your soul-stirring rituals. Yes, give me your hand, I pray, and reveal to me the pathways of divine guidance that I long for. Then shall I gaze upon that precious light, whence I can flee the evil of our dark origin. Yes, give me your hand, I pray, and when I am weary, bring me to the haven of piety with your winds. Hail, many-named mother of the gods, whose children are fair. Hail, mighty Hekate of the threshold, and hail to you also, forefather Janus, imperishable Zevs. Hail to you, Zevs most high. In summary, Hekate is an important goddess who has many roles. She is the goddess of crossroads and thresholds, who holds the keys to the gates of heaven and to Hades. She is a goddess who dwells in the darkness, but who brings light, shedding light on and guiding us through the mysteries. As a goddess of thresholds, she is an intermediary between us and the gods, as an advocate and leading us to virtue and to the divine light of the gods. She aids us through all transitions, as a goddess who holds the keys to the three worlds, but dwells in the middle place, the intermediate between the unmanifest and the manifest. She is the goddess of the liminal, of boundaries, where paths and forces converge. She is honoured at the dark of the moon, in that space where one lunar month has ended and the next is about to begin. Hekate can guide us through and help us to understand the mysteries. On a more mundane level, Hekate guards the threshold of our homes, along with Hermes and Apollon Prostatarius, Apollon standing before the door, and Apollon Orion, Apollon of the limits, of boundaries. So how do we offer to Hekate? In my tradition, in Orphism, Orphic ritual generally follows the following structure. We begin with purification, which is generally washing with turnips or blessed water. Then prayers are made to Hestia. Hestia is known as the first and last. She's the firstborn of the gods, and all ritual starts with a prayer to Hestia. Hestia is the goddess who presides over ritual. Then there are prayers to other deities, and this can include prayers to Hekate. In my particular tradition, we tend to pray to the zodiacrators of the month, that is, the god and goddess who rule the specific zodiacal month that we're performing the ritual in. Then there'll be the prayers to other deities and perhaps the main deity of the ritual, which may be Hekate. And lastly, a prayer to Dionysos, followed by prayers to Hera and Zeus. Libations and offerings are then made. So it may be libations of wine, which can be poured on the ground if outdoors, or into a libation bowl on the altar. And as offerings, we often make an offering of a single bay leaf. We may then do some meditation and silent prayer, or personal prayers and petitions to the gods, and end the ritual by saying, Yanito, may this be done. When performing ritual to Hekate, I tend to use the following chants. So I chant the EAO, which I chant like this. E-A-O, E-A-O, E-A-O. The E-A-O are the first, the last, and the middle letter of the Greek, middle vowels rather, of the Greek alphabet, and represent the sounds of all the vowels and the harmony of the spheres. Each letter also corresponds to one of the parts of the soul, of Plato's tripartite soul. So chanting that mantra can help to awaken the soul. I then intersperse that chant with the chant Hekate Sotira, Hekate the Saviouress, to the same tune. Hekate Sotira, Hekate Sotira, Hekate Sotira, E-A-O, 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 Hekate Sotira, Hekate Sotira. So that's a chant I might use with some meditation in the ritual. Another chant that I use is taken from, I think it's a play by Euripides. It's a fragment of a lost play, which has, I think, Agamemnon speaking this line: O torch-bearing Hekate, send visions that are favourable. O phosphor Hekate, pempe phasmat evmene. And I tend to chant that like this: O phosphor Hekate, Hekate, pempe phasmat evmene. O phosphor Hekate, Hekate, Pempe phasma dev meni, o phosphor Hekate, Pempe phasma dev meni. And I would also add perhaps a chant to the Onisos, and this one comes from the Bacchae by Euripides. And it in English it says, "Blessed are they who, being fortunate and knowing the rites of the gods, keep their souls pure and are initiated in the rites of Vakos. Evoe, evoe, evoe." So I would chant this like this. Makaostes ethemon teletus theon idos, vieton agis devicia theosaveti sikon, enerisivahion. Evohe, evohe, evohe. So that's basically my practice. If you'd like to read further about Hekate and Orphism, the book recently published, Volume 1 of the Many Gods Anthologies, Hekate, includes an article which is basically this talk that I've just given by myself. As you can see, the page here, Hekate in the Living Orphic Tradition, contributed by Ariadne Rainbird, South Wales Valley, UK. That's me. That's basically this talk. But there's also articles by many other contributors in this book who tell you about their work with Hekate. Some of them are scholarly works, some of them more personal. So you can get different ideas and different views on Hekate from that book. So I certainly recommend that. And for more on Orphismos or Orphism in general, my book, To All the Blessed Gods, an anthology of the living Orphic tradition with prayers to the Theoi, can be purchased from Amazon or Apple Books as an ebook, or from my Etsy shop, Ariadne's Web Creations. Okay, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel.